G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to War Thunder Ground Forces with Mags. I know I haven't put a tank video up in a while, but with 1.53 just around the corner, and it looks like they may have actually fixed the ULG issues that so many people, especially me, have been complaining about for so often, I may actually start spending some time inside of a tank again. So, time to start getting my eye in. And I thought the best way to get my eye in was to drive out something that is utterly overpowered. Enter the KV-1E. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this tank, this is a Era 2 battle rating 4.3 Soviet Premium KV-1. In terms of its gun and its base armor, it is identical to the KV-1 that you get into the tree. The sole difference with the KV-1E is the entire tank is wrapped in between 25 and 30 millimeters worth of spaced additional armor. This means that unangled this tank has between 100 and 105 millimeters on from pretty much any angle, minus a very few small gaps in a couple of places on the tank. This armor is on the turret, it is on the main body, it is in small panels between the guide wheels for the tracks, it is on the front, lower and upper glacis, it is on the rear of the tank. This thing is a rolling pillbox. Now of course, being completely coated in spaced armor means that the tank is highly resistant to heat. It is highly resistant to high explosive rounds, and it almost never generates spalling on an armor-piercing shell hit. So when you penetrate this thing, you've got to really treat almost every shot that you fire at it like an APCR shell and take out internal components. If you don't do that, this thing will just repair itself and keep rolling. So I just took a hit from the left-hand side from a Panzer IV F2. It's hidden in the ridgeline, between the ridgeline and the town, just over that way. It's actually scuttled off, it didn't hang around. That shot did shut down my engine, but it's only going to stop me for so long as it takes me to actually repair it and drive off. Now I know somebody's going to point out in the comments, Mags, this isn't spaced armor, it's additional armor. It's welded directly to the tank. To be spaced armor, it has to have an airspace. Well, in the real world, yes it does. In War Thunder it doesn't. It's considered to be spaced armor even though there is no actual gap between the armor plating. Not that the Whirlwind over here really cares about spaced armor and whether or not I've got an air gap. I've just crippled his entire tank from about halfway across the map. That's actually one of my problems with this map. I love this map for the most part. ULG has almost no effect here, because there is no soft cover to turn off. Aesthetically, this looks like a ruined city. It's a beautiful map, but it's just so small. Critical strike, take out the driver, line up the next shot. I'm sort of guessing here. I can see the turret, and I'm trying to line up off that. Take out the gun breech. Alright, so he won't be shooting back. Move forward a little bit. I'm actually going to angle against his shots here because I'm worried, and then I take a shot from the right, but I better deal with the target first. There we go. Panzer IIIM out of action, turn back to the right, and what the hell do we have over here? Well, it's another Panzer IIIM. Now, he has managed to get a shot through my armor and it has disabled my turret, however, that's all come back online. Bring the gun around for the first shot. Didn't take too much in the way of aim here, just lined him up and pulled the trigger, and no, the shell explodes as I attempt to fire it through my damage breach. I want you to take a look at the before and after of my damage indicator on the lower left hand side. I've now, by pulling the trigger and having that shell explode, actually done more damage to myself than the enemy has. Now as I'm damaged and I want to get rolling, I have triggered another repair, but before doing that I just carefully angled myself against his Panzer IIIM, and you can see he is pattering me with his guns, he's firing MG at me, and it is doing absolutely jack shit. He simply can't penetrate me. He doesn't have the penetration to get through my armor, providing I stay angled. To top it off, he's taken a hit from a Russian 112 from the side, and it's damaged his engine critically, so he can't actually move at the moment either. So the repair completes, I line the shot up on target, ready to pull the trigger, and the lucky mongrel puts a shell directly into the tip of the barrel of my gun, breaking it again. So once again, I'm back in a 30-second repair time with no weapon. You'll notice I haven't bothered trying to move the tank at all. There's no point. Nobody can actually penetrate me from this position, so I'm sitting completely exposed in the middle of a crossroads in the center of the map with half of Germany shooting at me. And at this point I was honestly sitting here with a coffee in one hand, sipping away and laughing my ass off. I was too busy drinking my coffee to care. The repair on the gun completes again, and the first thing I do is put a shell straight down the machine gun port on the left hand side of the Panzer 3M. This shuts down his driver, it shuts down his loader, it disables his gunner for the moment. He's only got the MG operating at this time. I can just drive straight up, take a big hit from the left, no idea what fired that, doesn't even bother me. Just drive up to the side, put a shot in. Surprisingly, that only set him on fire. I was expecting that to be a kill. Now, obviously I have taken some internal damage. Having my breach explode tended to do some bad things to my loader, so my reload time is now phenomenally long, but I've got nothing but time. Line up the next shot, put him down. Time to move into the cap circle and capture the center cap. Don't really need it, we've already got 2 under control at this point. The left hand side of the map has been taken by an army of standard KV-2s. All the T-34s went to the right. I'm just going to roll into the center of this one and take it for myself. Now at this point I can actually take a few seconds to assess the damage on my tank. So obviously my loader has been injured, so he's running a little bit slower. I've got some damage to the right hand side track that is entirely irrelevant. I've got some damage to the viewports which is irrelevant, and every other component of the tank is fairly operating at this time. It does look like I've taken damage to one of the fuel tanks as well, but again, doesn't matter. It's not like I'm going to run out. So yes, from what you've seen so far, I'm pretty sure you're beginning to understand why I call this tank Stalin's Iron Chariot. This thing is obscene if it's a top tier tank in a match. As a top tier tank, you don't even really need to concern yourself with cover most of the time. You just need to know where the enemy is so you can angle against their position, and as a general rule you can set this tank up to bounce almost any gun that you can potentially face, providing you are angled from almost any range. So with that zone captured, there's no point hanging around anymore. Just open up the throttles, cross the river and start climbing the hill looking for more meat to kill. Now we've got allies off to the side. They've secured the east cap and are now heading around the back of the buildings towards the German spawn. And this is part of the reason why I don't like this map. You know, despite having a beautiful aesthetic and generally being free of all ULG issues, the map size, as I said before, it is just too small. Once you've captured the points, if your forces have the right push, you can roll directly onto the enemy's spawn point and just camp them there. And there's nothing that they can do to stop you. And this is precisely what's going on. Now I'm moving up towards the enemy spawn point because there's a stug up here that I've spotted and I want to have its ass. First shot through, nice good hit, went straight through the ammo rack, didn't actually cause an explosion, which is disappointing. Gunner has been wounded, big surprise there. It looks like I'm going to repair the gun again, so I'll roll forward a little bit more and just make sure my angle is optimal. Now you'll notice me bouncing hits from behind. I thought I was actually taking shots from an allied tank that was dark that I had rolled up here and was killing all his tanks. The guy just behind me. Turns out it wasn't. There is actually an enemy tank in the middle of there that was shooting me from behind and I didn't even realise it. It didn't matter whether it was an ally or an enemy because I bounced every round. So with the stug dead, line up on the Panzer IV F2, one shot straight through the front plate, thank you very much, it's the next kill done, and continue rolling. There's no point in stopping at this. And the reason why there's no point in stopping is because I have to get up to that spawn point too if I actually want a chance of getting any more kills. Why is that? Well, you remember that convoy of KV-1 L11s that I was following at the start of the match, and I veered off the right to take the centre while they continued off to the left to go through? Those guys have teamed up together and rolled directly into the German spawn, and they've just made a firing line and they're killing everything that comes in. And the fact that they can do this is the reason why this map annoys the hell out of me. There's no chance for a German comeback at this point, it's just how many people are going to spawn in that we can farm beforehand. As much as I don't like the idea, I do like free credit, so I will go and take that. At the very least it might help end the match faster, as soon as this repair's done of course. Now, if you're looking at the top of the screen, you'll see we actually have lost a base. We've lost a base back in the direction from where I was taking that fire from behind before. There were 2 loose tanks that had managed to slip past the Russian lines. First they capped out the circle to try and buy themselves some more time, and now they're playing snipey from the buildings at the back of the map. Now, if I had realised this straight away, I would have turned the tank back around, but at this point I already thought there were tanks back there dealing with that issue. In fact, you can see that we're decapping at the moment, so I automatically assumed that the tanks must be dead. As it turned out, it was only one of them that was dead. The other one is still very much alive and hidden at the moment. So, this is the last building complex. We take a left here and we're directly looking on the German spawn, and let's have a look at what we can see. Well, as you can see, half the world is ripping the hell out of that AAA truck. In fact, it's already dead. Just put a shot in to make sure, of course. Checking a little bit further around, and we've got a few more wrecks that will start despawning, and then you'll get to see why we have nothing but wrecks around this corner. Now, I try to do this right, make sure my angle was right before progressing into the open, but really there was no point. This is what happens on this map almost every single time, and I should have known what was sitting around the corner. A giant lineup of KV-1s just parked there. They're just blatting the area with machine gun fire while they're waiting for the next German to spawn in and give them some more free credits. And this is just the way this map plays out. So screw this, this is about as fun as watching grass grow. I'm going to take the tank around to the left, head up that way. I know the last place that the Germans capped out. I know I was taking shots from behind. At this point I've sort of worked out that those shots were probably from an enemy tank. Heading back that way to see whether or not I can actually find something. And about a minute and a half later, seconds before the match finally come to a close, I did. You cheeky bastard. So, first place for the team and highest score of the match with only 4 kills and 1 assist. Sentinel X3, we got Professional X3, Shadow Strike Streak X2, Multi-Strike X2, and One Shot X3. Really surprised I didn't get the Adamant Award this round as well. 23,631 Silver Lions, no premium account this time, 1,592 research points, again no premium apply to that, although I do have a 15% booster running in the background, which isn't bad, 1500, 1600 RP, researching an Era 4 tank with an Era 2 tank. But in the end, the most important part to understand of all is that most of that score wasn't actually generated from me shooting things, or doing damage, or killing tanks, or even the capture in the field. The majority of the points that I earned over the course of that match were from tanks pelting the hell out of me with their guns and getting nowhere. Now, in spite of everything that I've said and demonstrated, there are weak spots to this tank. If you look very closely at its armor, and I strongly recommend if you see a few of these in battle, flick it over to the armor viewer and actually take a look at this tank yourself, you'll see that the outer armor layer is only showing the spaced armor in most cases, because it totally encases the inner armor, but you can see where the inner plates are and you can see where the gaps are in between. If you can get a shell with at least 75mm of penetration in one of those gaps and hit the under armor directly, you can reliably take this thing out with a much lower level tank. However, if you are a lower level tank and you just keep trying to pelt against its armor, you're not going to get anywhere. As you saw, even Panzer IV F2s bounce off this thing when it's angled slightly. If you do happen to be driving an F2 and you haven't got a aim on a weak point, or you are not flat to the tank, if you are on an angle, save your ammo. There's no point in firing on it. It's likely going to ricochet. You need to get onto one of the weak points, or you need to remove the angle of the tank. The F2's gun is punchy enough to go straight through the spaced armor and the core armor without a problem. And that's exactly what happened in the first shot that I took in this match that took out my engine as I was crossing the T intersection. But you've got to hit from that flat angle. If you don't, it'll just bounce every single time. So anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed a quick spin around in Stalin's Iron Chariot. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Drive smart, drive safe, and I'll catch you on the battlefield.